Fosrada. I'm kidding. All right, I'm fucking around. All right, cool. I was thinking about that angry video game nerd episode where like he's like sing the theme song and the guy like starts doing vocal exercises. He's like sing the fucking song. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? Welcome to Macabre Masters. There's a before of course I'm hanging out with OriginalNick and Beth the Macabre Pimpstress, and we also have a special guest actually on the episode today. Our good friend Dragon God, Dragonborn, Dragon Lord. Direct relation to Beth. Actually, their birthday today. So for the birthday gift, what we're doing is we are having them at the filming of an episode, which is awesome and pretty cool. Probably more so for us than them, but hey, we try. None of us have any money, so that's going to be your gift. Merry Christmas also. I'm just saying, and next birthday. Okay, with that said, I actually do have to announce something sad, though. We actually recorded a really great episode last week, and due to a technical snafu, it no longer exists. So a moment of silence for that episode. Okay, good. Thank you. All right. Hopes and prayers, thoughts and prayers are welcome. Also, payments to Cash App, Venmo, or PayPal are also really good as well. Thanks. Okay. So, guys, today's going to be a lot of fun. We are going to talk about urban legends that creep us out, right? We did a lot of stuff on movies and stuff, and we kind of want to do a little bit of stuff just so you guys out there in podcast land can get to know us a little bit better as humans and as people. So there's a lot of really great urban legends out there. A lot of them are very creepy and very cool, and we're going to get into that. But before we do, how you guys doing tonight? You having a good evening so far, or morning?
Doing absolutely fantastic today. Got a new microphone. Hopefully it sounds better for the listeners. I know.
Was it as good for you as it was for me, listener?
Nah, just, shout out to Pope for making all the stinky audio make sound good before I got the microphone.
Here to help. Beth, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. It's been a long week. I'm not going to lie. It's been very, very busy, but not all bad, not all good. It's just been all this stuff. Life is the thing that happens in between recordings. A great wise man once told me.
I'm telling you. Cool. So, also a fun fact that Beth brought up earlier is I am currently in the process. You guys on Podcast Land are not checking out the video, but I'm currently being licked by a Dilophosaurus on the back of my neck, and I gotta lie, I kind of like it. Dilophosaurs were warm-blooded, so it's okay. It's not a cold lick. It's very nice, actually. I advise everybody tries it at least once. Guys.
Does it feel like a cat tongue?
It's not as rough. It's actually nice and smooth. This is going in a really weird direction that I'm not sure I'm comfortable. So, for further reference, guys, do know that there is a series of books on human-dinosaur relations, and they're out there, so go find them. They're on Amazon. I think Chuck Tingle makes a few. It's great. So, with that said, I guess the question I have for you guys to kind of get this whole thing opened up is there's obviously a million urban legends out there. You know what I mean? Everything from Mothman to alligators in the sewers to all sorts of other fun stuff. But is there like an urban legend that like jacked you up? Like you're just like you're afraid to go outside or you're afraid to look in a mirror, which is mine. Spoiler alert, I'll get to that in a little bit. And then like anything that like jacked you up. You don't have to know the whole history of it or anything like that. Just something that creeped you out. What's up? Talk to me.
Banshees. When I was a little kid, banshees. Honestly, that was one of the ones that really scared me as a little kid. Now as an adult, there's a couple that still kind of linger, but I think the Hat Man probably is one that gets to me the most.
So what's the Hat Man? What's his deal?
It's like you've heard of the shadow people kind of thing. That's a pretty common like urban legend, cryptid sort of thing. The Hat Man is a very specific one, and you can find documentaries, movies, a lot of YouTube videos with people telling their experiences. The big thing about the Hat Man is it's a tall, dark figure with no real facial features, and it presents as a shadow or a lingering darkness sort of in the corner or even behind you or close to you on film and video, with a very large sort of fedora style hat is what most people explain it as. And you will see pictures where there's like a shadow standing behind someone with a large hat sort of shadow above it, and like sort of their neck or parts of their face will start to blur, which is really reminiscent. We saw like in the Ring movie and stuff like that, you know, where people aren't quite captured on film correctly. The big thing about the Hat Man that gets me is that it is in countries all over the world. Like there are people from everywhere that say, and even people that say like they've done hallucination. What is the word I'm looking for? Like therapy, like shaman therapy. They go to ayahuasca ceremonies in South America, or they do different sort of entheogenic shaman-led or spiritual leader-led things back in Eastern countries, like in Asia, Japan, China, even the Philippines. It's everywhere. So I think the fact that it's so prevalent and it's so similar to what everybody else describes from case to case, that really freaks me out. And I've seen similar figures. Like in my life, there was a house we lived in about 10 years ago, where there was like always this tall cowboy looking sort of vibe out of the corner of your eye. And I was not the only one that saw it. Everybody called him Charlie. Like, but yeah, I don't know. It was just a weird thing. And we've talked before about like some of the stuff I'm sensitive to. And I think the fact that I can relate to it makes it just that much more creepy for me.
So, I actually the Hatman thing, I actually have something to contribute to that one as well. And that is that when I was getting out of the military, I had a friend, a female friend with a daughter, and so one day I'm just like kind of kicking it. We just hang out, have a few drinks or whatever. She was a very, very cool person, and what happens is one day we're just sitting there chatting, and she's like, "Yeah, my daughter, she sleeps with me, mostly these days." And I'm like, "Oh, really? She's getting a little old for that. Why is that?" And she's like, "Well, she keeps seeing this guy in a hat in her room." And I'm just like, I think I need to go. I think I need to get out of here. And so there's a theory, right? And it's been explored in movies and films and stuff, but the theory is that when we're kids, we're like super, super susceptible to that kind of stuff, and we can see it better and we can understand it better. But as we get older, the way movies usually interpret it is like basically adults lose the magic, the magic of Christmas and can't see Santa Claus, that kind of thing. But it also manifests on this as well. And so like basically over time we lose the ability to see that stuff, but kids can, and animals can as well. And so I think that that's a perfectly reasonable theory, although as adults, many of us, I believe, are probably much more sensitive to that kind of stuff, me not included. But so I am perfectly like ready to believe that, like, because why would a little girl make something like that up? Like, and something that correlates so much with something that has been said throughout history. There's just the line of coincidence.
Exactly. Like you're not wrong there. I feel the same way. The other side of it too is they say, so it goes kind of both ways, right? Because I've also heard and even kind of seen examples of where puberty is where that sensitivity actually starts. Like some children might be special or gifted, but they don't actually realize that they have abilities or higher sensitivities that everybody else doesn't have around puberty. And for people who are severely traumatized with PTSD, people who have developmental disorders, personality disorders, schizophrenia is a really common one. The question is are they actually seeing things that we can't see, or are they hallucinating, And so I think it depends a lot on just how you're raised, what culture you're in, how seeing things like the Hat Man or any of the other urban legends we're going to discuss tonight, how they're perceived by the people around you. And there's a lot of nurture versus nature in that. as well. So I think, yes, children, in my experience, are definitely more sensitive. I can tell you from experience that my toddlers saw things often when they were little. Now it's a little bit different, right? That they still have belief in those things, despite the fact that they all know that Easter Bunny and Santa Claus and Tooth Fairy was just momming them, giving them money and presents and stuff. Like ultimately they do still believe in that magic and stuff. Like we still believe in fairies as a whole family, you know, we'll leave like plates out for them and stuff like that on certain holidays and stuff. Just because there is stuff that we will never see or understand as humans. Our eyes can only perceive so much of what's actually around us. Our brains can only understand so much, you know. I don't think that that's any different when we talk about certain spirits or entities and stuff like that. But I do think that a lot of it depends on how you're raised and the people you're around, religious influences, things like that in general.
Well, that's an interesting point too, is the religious point, because you notice a lot of times when people see like they have something that I guess they would interpret as a religious experience. That's completely subjective. There's no way to prove it, right? And so that's fine. So they could either be lying or telling the truth. There's only two options. However, you notice that if somebody's like ultra Christian, for example, if they have a religious experience, they never see Krishna. You know what I mean? Like it's just not, they never see, you know, Zeus or Dionysus. You know, they see Jesus. And so you have to wonder how much cultural influence does play into overall that. One interesting thing about humans is that we only see a very, 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 very small portion of the light spectrum, and of the color spectrum. And so hypothetically, there could be energy, right? There could be energy imprints or something along those lines, which is actually something we talked about briefly last week. But there's a lot of different things that maybe if we could see, would actually change our entire perception. And so if somebody's got something in their brain that's off from what I guess we will call normal, although I don't know if that's exactly a fair term, just maybe kind of more standard, then maybe that allows them to see something, maybe the spectrums, maybe it allows them to tune into it, and at that point they can see something that we can't, and that would make them just gifted, right? That's what that would mean. Or maybe they're hallucinating. But the thing about it, so the weird thing too is that the brain is so wondrous that when you dream, you can come up with the craziest stuff that you never even thought of even thinking about, and it seems real to you. So it's the jury's out on that. Like I have no idea. All I know, and something that Beth has brought up a lot of times recently actually is in conversation, is actually genetic memory. And so I think that genetic memory actually could explain why a lot of us, if we have paranormal situations or if we have something like that, if we would understand it and know about it. So for example, that little girl, genetic memory, people knew about the Hat Man going back in time. And so that kind of played into it as well. But that's obviously still a pretty new field. So it's
honestly, that's not a far-fetched idea. Like, okay, so let's take into consideration evolution, microevolution, the progression from Stone Age to now. We talk about just something basic, right? Like people who are morning people and people who are night people, right? Like they say that a lot of people there are people who theorize, I'll put it that way, that certain what we call mental health conditions are actually evolved from people having to be hyper aware, having to stay up late to guard the camp while everybody else slept, to tend the fire, to keep animals away. Whereas there are other people who were the ones who got up in the morning and let those people go to bed, just like any other night shift, day shift couple we have now, right? And who takes care of the kids and all the other bills and stuff. I really do believe that just as simple as being a night person and how that can be passed down genetically, it is no different how you can be sensitive to something. That's why we hear, at least from the pagan witchcraft side, there are a lot of people who claim to be natural born witches, which I absolutely believe, but I don't believe necessarily that those skills can be as finely tuned and as capable or as powerful without actually nurturing them into something. I might be able to write a haiku. That does not make me Robert Frost, automatically, just because he was my grandfather, to write this great epic poetry. There are things that you do have to nurture, and being sensitive and allowing yourself to feel those sensitivities, those weirdnesses, those things that are very atypical of what we would consider typical society or normal society. I don't like that word much either, but I think that those are things that can be nurtured as well as passed down, but a lot of people choose to shut it out because of ostracization, because of stuff like that. Like if that little girl, like you talked about, goes to school and said, I saw a scary man with a hat in my bedroom last night, the teachers are going to take that very differently than you or her mother might, you know? And a lot of that is because people aren't inclined to believe that the supernatural, the paranormal, has a place amongst the rest of us.
Well, also don't forget a huge factor, I think, and it actually came up in an early episode of Macabre Masters in the conversation with Hereditary, and what that is actually popular culture's kind of perception of the supernatural as a whole. And so you've got really two different types. You've got the Ghostbusters type, which was more lighthearted and more kind of funny. But then you have the Hereditary side of things, the Exorcist side of things, the Omen side of things, which is that it's scary, it's going to hurt you, it's going to kill you, it's going to drive you insane, that kind of thing. And so people pay attention to that stuff. Like I'm sure there's people out there that think like the Omen's like a true story, for example. Like I'm positive they exist. Or that The Exorcist is a true story. You know what I mean? And so obviously The Exorcist is loosely based on some incidences that happened, but I got this clicking behind me. It's weird. Maybe it's the hat man. Maybe it's the man in the hat. He's hanging out. Hey, bro, come on, stop clicking. I'm recording. Okay, so with that said, that's I guess my last question actually is, do you think that the Hat Man, assuming is real, assuming people see him, do you think that he's harmful? Do you think that he's just, what do you think his purpose is? Like, do you have any theories as to why this individual would be doing that, would be hanging out in kids' rooms? I mean, just saying, like,
I can always suppose and theorize. I generally am of the mindset that most entities manifest harder the harder you focus on them, right? It's just like anything else that you try to believe into existence. The more real it is for you, the more real it can become if it's tangible. And sometimes for some people, even if it's not. That being said, do I believe there are entities that don't need your belief to exist? I don't know. I think Neil Gaiman did the best example of that in American Gods. There's an example of every god, of every entity for everybody that believes in it, right? They are not going to all be the same. And in that regard, I don't know. Do I think that there are malevolent spirits that do wish to cause harm just for the sake of doing so? Absolutely. Do I think that if I give it little bearance and pay little credence to it, will it still have the same effect on me? Also true. Like, I think I can be in at least a little bit of control of that, to not let my imagination get run away with me with whatever entity it happens to be focused on. And that's just from my own personal experience with different stuff in my life, in my history. Again, not to say that that's everybody's experience, but I do think that people can choose to not let something affect them as badly, or not let it manifest into reality, into tangibleness for themselves. But that's not always everybody else's case and experience, so I can't speak necessarily on what anybody else has seen or gone through when it comes to entities like shadow people, the Hat Man, but like I told you, we've talked about the movie Us and how Jordan Peele was able to use shadow people to really thoroughly fuck your mind up, and it did. Like, I cannot watch that movie if I'm about to go to bed, or even in the dark. Like, I can't do it, because the concept of it, of what that version of shadow people was like, that is not something that they were able to just wish away. They really were the other of them, and that is some people's experiences out there with these sort of dark figures and looming in the shadow, creepy things that go bump in the night.
Definitely. All right, so that's the Hat Man.
Well, I do. I have something to contribute to the Hat Man. It's crazy. It feels like someone stole my homework because out of the three that I actually prepared, I didn't get the Hat Man, but it is exactly sounds like Dark Watchers. Okay, so Dark Watchers. I pulled it up on a list of urban legends. The description is Dark Watchers are tall, giant-sized, featureless, dark silhouettes, often wearing brimmed hats and walking sticks, seen around between twilight and dawn, motionlessly watching travelers from along the Santa Lucia mountain range, and if approached, they disappear. So this has been around for a while, and it is often attributed to the Chumash people. I hope I'm saying that right, but nothing in their mythology has anything in line with Watchers. It was when Spanish settlers started moving in the areas that they were spotted along the area, calling it the Los Vigilantes Acuros. And I hope that was not offensive to anyone. I feel like we all got a line there for a second. While it may not be called the Hat Man, it sounds eerily similar. um, but yeah, I think it even made its way into gaming a little bit. I don't know if you guys are into Mario Galaxy, but there's a level notoriously where there's like, I forget which level it is, but you can look up and there are shadow figures with yellow eyes watching you from the whole thing. So Watchers are kind of like, or the Hat Man are kind of just all over the place throughout, legends.
I would agree. Like, there are a lot of different examples of that, and you see a lot of it in video game and horror media in general. They kind of used sort of the shadows to allude to what the real bad guys were in the Until Dawn game with Remy Malik. And that what they utilize it a lot. Like, I've seen it even in like more fantasy type stuff. You see sort of shadowy things in Elder Scrolls and stuff like that too. And you see it a lot in fan fiction and tabletop games and role playing games and stuff like that as well. And so I think that honestly, it's made its way into mainstream somewhat just because there is so much prevalence of it. And granted, like you said, it's not always called the same thing, but who's to say that these entities aren't and that they don't exist in some way where some people are more sensitive to it?
I would say the a really great example of the shadow people used in kind of like video game media, especially, actually would be Kingdom Hearts with nobodies.
Yeah.
Because I mean, nobodies are, they're created like from people, so it's it's, yeah, it's that's definitely, it's a fascinating concept too. Yeah, so Nick, what do you got, man?
So I did have Dark Watchers, but that one was, kind of got tied in. I have two more that are ready to go. Would you like to hear about Hanako-san from Japan, or would you rather hear about the Black Angel from Oakland Cemetery in Iowa City first?
I'm for Iowa City. That sounds
Okay.
cool. The Black Angel, very goth.
Very fantastic.
Totally
Okay.
brutal.
So I tried my best not to just copy it down word for word from the Wikipedia. I will do my best to embellish upon it. But so the first one I just started looking into is Black Angel. It is in Oakland Cemetery, Iowa. The history, the cemetery was deeded to the residents, just to like get a backstory. The deed to the residents, deeded to the residents of Iowa City in 1843. It is mostly Protestant. Catholics are buried at St. Joseph Cemetery right down the road, and the Jewish people are buried in Agadist Akim Cemetery. Please don't hurt us. I'm very bad with pronunciations, but just to kind of give you like a little history of where what kind of cemetery it is. This legendary figure is 8.5 feet tall. It is a bronze statue of an angel by Mario Corbel, and it was made in 1913 in memory to Nicholas Feldvent. More names from the Czech Republic that I'm not good at pronouncing. It dates back to the 19th century when Teresa Feldvert moved to Iowa City from modern-day Czech Republic and Slovakia, so around that area. Her first marriage got her a son, Edward Dolezal, who died in Iowa City in 1891. And when he passed away, she had a bronze statue made and then transported to Iowa City in 1915. Her second husband, Nicholas, passed away, and his ashes were placed in the repository in the base of that statue. And when she died in 1924, she had her ashes placed next to her husband in the repository underneath. An interesting fact is that Teresa's birth date is posted, but no death date. Over time, bronze turns to green and then black. So here's the urban legend part. Students from the surrounding Iowa City visit the statue. It's very big on Halloween, of course. They test their luck by touching or kissing the statue. It is said that if you touch it or kiss it, and you're not a virgin, you will die. And this is the sad part. It says if you are pregnant, you will miscarry if you walk underneath the wings of the angel.
Sounds like a really freaking douchey angel, okay? That is one asshole angel. I don't want anything to do with this damn angel, okay?
Of course, that's interesting. I mean, that's kind of creepy, like, just in general. But, like, how many people... I don't know, that's...
Go every single year.
I just see a lot of people dropping dead. Like, here, you've got the what... I don't even know. I can't even say it. I don't want to wish anything bad on anybody. But, like, that's kind of upsetting. Like, I feel uncomfortable. Although I do have one that's similar that I want to share with you once you're done telling us about it some more.
No, that is all I had. It's a very short thing. I mean, it is mostly, when I clicked on the link, it is a small section on, of course, the cemetery itself, but it got its own dedicated section within the history. Just because so many teenagers or people go every single year, I'd be afraid to go there with my wife. Because even though, once you're married, not saying that premarital sex is evil and you're going to die and go to hell. That's not my place. I'm not that guy. But, like, when you're married, you kind of do stuff. So I'd be super afraid to go with my wife. Like, touch this angel.
Well, let's look at this.
We're married.
Outside of the creep factor, okay, which it is creepy, but outside of the creep factor, let's look at this objectively for a second, okay? This is super easy to scientifically test. And the way it's easy is that kids go every single year, teenagers go every single year, and there's not a pile of dead bodies around it. So I'm just saying
you die 7 days later.
Yeah, right, exactly. Okay, so maybe that myth would make more sense. It's like, okay, you're gonna die in 7 days, and Samara is gonna call you up and hang out. If your phone's off, then better break out your beeper. Anyway, so the thing is that I mean, I love it. You know what I mean? I love the creep factor. I love how creepy it is, but it's just like, if this thing was like honestly, if this thing caused the death of people, it caused like miscarriages and stuff like that. Like, this thing would be it'd be locked up in Area 51, getting observed.
Yeah, it'd be torn down faster than a Civil War monument.
Exactly, right? Like, it's objectively not true. You know what I mean? I
think it'd be cooler if the 8-foot tall angel like knocked on your door.
Yeah, just like to hang out.
Like, whoa, the statue's gone today. Whose house?
See, whose
house is he at?
That would be the better myth, okay? So that would be the better myth. Here's the new myth. I'm making it up now, guys. You heard it here first. Here it is. If you kiss it,
Iowa City residents.
If you kiss it, you catch mouth herpes. All right? But if you're a virgin or not. However, if you're not a virgin, then he shows up 2 days later, and you got to get him Domino's pizza. But you got to get it carry out. You can't do it delivery. That extra $, I mean, that's...
Delivery's important. That's what my dude's doing right now, is Domino's delivery for the summer in our little tourist town. And That's paying my bills, but
I wasn't
we need
dissing
delivery and tippers.
I wasn't dissing delivery. I always get it delivered. What I was actually referencing is the fact that Domino's actually just instituted a discount on the pizza if you go do a carryout. So I was implying that our Angel was cheap.
True.
I wasn't saying anything wrong against delivery. I get food delivered every other day. You got to be kidding me. I'd be keeping you guys in business if I lived there. No, so that's a pretty fun one. I always really like the ones that like are kind of like they're kind of like more with the youth. You know what I mean? Like the one I'm gonna get into is actually kind of more like that too. But what's your second one, Nick?
Sure. My second one is Hanako-san. She is from Japan. She's also known as Toire no Hanako-san. It is a Japanese urban legend about the spirit of a young girl named Hanako-san who haunts school toilets. Depending on the account, there's a couple. She's either the ghost of a girl around World War II who died while playing hide and seek during an air raid, or she was murdered by a family member or a stranger in a girl's toilet, or she committed suicide in the school bathroom. So there's a couple different accounts. She is mostly described as a yokai or a yurie, which we could even go into those on a separate episode. That'd be cool. Depending on the source, but as most common, she is described as bobbed hair, like she has bobbed hair, and she's wearing a red skirt or a red dress. Okay, now I got a star next to this, so we're going to learn how to summon Hanako-san right now. Well, I can't.
Hey, whoa. Wait a sec.
You can't do this either.
Wait a second. We've got to give the disclaimer. Okay? We got to give the disclaimer. You ready?
Disclaimer.
All right.
Okay,
so,
yes.
When discussing matters of summoning supernatural entities, Macabre Masters is not responsible for any damages, mental problems, scariness, terror, heart attacks, strokes, bad luck, mouth herpes, extra delivery fees. We are not responsible for any of that, and we advise that you check with your doctor, your psychologist, your local tarot reader, and Beth the Macabre Pimpstress before you do anything that you've been instructed to on this podcast, and we thank you in advance for your cooperation. Thank you.
Okay, I'm glad you covered the Black Angel too. That's good. Okay. So to summon Hanako-san, you and I can't do this, Pope, or unless you go to an abandoned place, because it said you have to go to a girl's toilet. So unless the place is abandoned, I can't do it.
That's my weekend hangout spot.
Do genderless toilets count? Like if it's he's, these, they, he, she, theys, like do those toilets count?
Is Hanako-san transphobic?
I mean, it is 1940s Japan.
I guess that's fair.
You can take a guess. I think that's before inclusivity was around anywhere. But to summon Hanako-san, it said you go to the girls' toilet, usually on the third floor. You knock 3 times on the third stall and ask if Hanako-san is present. If she is, she'll say some sort of variation of "yes, I am." Then, a bloody ghost hand, or it is said that it is the hand of Hanako herself, will pull you into the toilet, which either leads to hell, or you may be eaten by a 3-headed lizard for disturbing her peace. I guess just depending on which account it is. I mean, maybe you could like choose. Maybe you could be like, as she's pulling you through the dimension, you're like, I'm going to hell. Or you could be like, no, wait, I'll take the 3-headed lizard.
That did not end how I expected it to end. Like, where the hell did this lizard come from? Look, all respect to the wonderful nation of Japan, okay? Like, I'm with you guys. I love Japanese culture. I'm with you guys 100%. But let's talk about burying the lead for a second, okay? So look, the problem is for a good story, the end has reflections of the beginning, okay? There's no 3-headed dragons mentioned anywhere in any of this until it's time for... Hanako-san apparently doesn't even kill you. Like, you get dragged to hell, and you get, like... Or there's a dragon... Where does the dragon... How does the dragon fit through the toilet? Like, is it an apparition?
It's on the other side of the toilet.
It's on the other side.
Through the toilet, and then then dropped off. It's like transportation. She's transporting you. She's
So
like,
when
you
she
disturbed me,
transports
so
you,
I'm
are
going to
you
put you
made
somewhere.
are you made ethereal so that you can transport? Because I don't. If you get stuffed into a hole the size of a toilet hole, like I don't know if you guys have ever
Making a
seen
smoothie for the
Wishmaster.
dragon.
It's not pleasant.
It's like Santa Claus
Yeah, like well, there you go. This
magic.
is it's the Santa Claus magic. Is so I do
Or
I
Honey, I
actually
Shrunk the Kids.
I do want to point something out about this that really it really kind of annoys me, but it's not it's something that's very common and I think should be acknowledged. So you mentioned earlier that there's a theory that Hanukkah-san is either a girl that died in some manner, but then later on you mentioned that there's a theory that she's a yokai. So here's the thing:
What's
Yeah.
a demon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
A
Not
yokai is
necessarily good or bad in Japan, from what I've been told.
so
Japanese don't believe that they're good or bad. It's just, yeah,
yeah. I think oni are more considered to be bad, but
the
either
evil ones.
yeah, but either way, yokai cannot be humans, and humans cannot be yokai. It's like when you go to a funeral and somebody says, "Hey, John's gone to get his angel wings." It's like, no, John didn't. Angels were a pre-existing race. John is a human. John is not going to be an angel. He's probably not even getting to hang out with angels. There's a hierarchy. It's not a meritocracy.
Go to heaven like me.
So that's one thing, guys. When John Wayne Gacy died, he didn't go to hell to be a demon. He just went to hell. So if there is indeed a hell, of course, but I'm just assuming for the sake of conversation that it is. So obviously there's correlations with this to Moaning Myrtle. I wonder if.
I know right there. That's what I was thinking about the whole time. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm sorry.
I also did say that she's a Yurie, which is basically the same thing as a ghost, spirit. So she's either a yokai or a Yurie.
So it's not Moaning Myrtle,
Could be.
is what you just said.
Japanese Moaning Myrtle.
From the 40s. Yeah.
So while we're on the topic of it, I have another Japanese one that I think is pretty dope. And I really hope I don't butcher this, obviously. But have you guys heard of Kuchisake Onna?
No, never.
No.
So there's a little bit of theory like of where it came from, but generally everything I've read online, they don't know the origin other than that there was this one lady in this one town that made it in the newspaper and it spread from there from way back when, around the 70s or so, like late 70s-ish. Is what I hear. But essentially she is a woman, think like Lady Dimitrescu or Jessica Rabbit, very curvaceous and kind of beautiful. She's got a long red jacket on, and either a mask, or I've also seen it where she has a hat that covers her face. And she will walk up to a man on the street and say, "Do you think I'm pretty, or do you think I'm beautiful?" while concealing herself. And of course he'll be like, "Yeah, you're hot,"
I did hear about
however
this,
it goes down. And then she will remove her mask or her hat, and she is split mouth from here to here with like giant gaping fangy teeth and stuff. And generally they say some of the theories I've heard is that she was a scorned woman, and so she is out there to prey on men who also are unfaithful or abusive to their women, et cetera, et cetera. But apparently they also use her to like scare young boys, like from being too promiscuous or flirtatious in like middle school age type stuff like that. And I always thought that was interesting because we see, and we've talked about this before, Pope, the demonization of women and how they're presented, especially scorned, angry women, and how they are used as a terror tactic or a telltale, no, don't be like that, or this will happen kind of thing, and just how women are presented in a lot of urban legends and folklore. And I think she's a really prime example of that, of a woman having feelings about something, and then automatically she's considered malevolent in some way.
So
So I have heard of that.
yeah, I've
I
heard
just
of it
forgot
too.
the name, or I didn't know the name.
But what makes it interesting in that case is that a lot of times when you hear stories about entities that kind of like have a riddle of some sort, there's usually a way to beat the riddle. You know what I mean? In her case, as far as I remember it, there's no way to beat it. Like, if you say yes, then you die. If you say no, then you die hard. Like seriously, and so that's it's an interesting diversion, like not diversion, but a kind of departure from
alternative.
Yeah.
Sure.
Also, by the way, I think whether she's in a hat or whether she's in a mask, I'd like to recommend, if she's listening to this podcast, as everyone does in the spiritual realm, try a Sia wig. That would be really cool. I'm just saying. If somebody walked up to me in a Sia wig and they were like, "Yo, am I beautiful?" I'd be like, "I don't know if you're beautiful, but you're at least a great singer. Like, will you fucking sign this? Like, what's up?" And then she's all like, "No."
Accepted.
So
I have one more quick local one, if I can, before we're done. It just, when Nick did the one about the Dark Angel Cemetery, it reminded me of the very first urban legend I ever learned about. And I'm talking like 3rd, 4th grade. Like, my friend had this little book of ghost stories that she brought to school, and we would go hide behind the school building and like read it and try to scare each other. And it's about the cursed tomb of Colonel Buck in Bucksport, Maine. And it is about a colonel from the Revolutionary War that essentially had accused a woman of witchcraft and he died. And while they were trying her and burning her, her leg flopped out of the fire onto his headstone and left the imprint of her foot and leg on there. And allegedly they have tried to change the headstone. They've tried to scrub it off, and it always reappears. Now, there are some holes in it, in that there were never allegedly any witch burnings in Maine that we have documented that we know of. The other side of it is that even now, like, his monument is taller than 1.5 of any of us, right? So it's highly unlikely that she fell out of a funeral pyre and just her leg flopped over, but it is a really cool, interesting urban legend that it's kind of always stuck with me. Just, I don't think about it a lot, but it was the one that first really got me, as far as burning a witch, as far as the imprint that she left. And again, it's just the demonstration of women and how their view throughout time has been changed, because as a kid I thought that shit was hella cool. Like, she was so pissed off she scorned his gravestone. Like, that's some pretty legendary bad witch shit, right? But at the time, they considered it a curse, and it's a huge tourist spot actually in that part of Maine, I guess.
She's a bad witch and she loves drama. So I'm sorry, I was watching John Oliver earlier, and he had a picture of the Pope drinking wine, and he was like, because the Pope's a bad bitch and he loves drama. That's just he lives for drama. That's what he said. Oh my God, that shit killed me. Okay, I have one too. And so I feel like somebody kind of stole my homework, and because mine is burying the lead at the end, it loops back in. See what I'm saying? So with that said, Bloody Mary is my urban legend, and the reason is because it actually really resembles the story you told earlier about the girl in the bathroom about Moaning Myrtle. And the thing about it is that I actually read up on it a little bit, which it scared me as a kid. Somebody told me about it. To this day, I will not go into a bathroom with the lights out. I won't do it. And I know that the whole thing's fake. I know that it's stupid. I won't do it. It just terrifies me. That person told me at a time when I was really impressionable, and I had nightmares about it, real intense, terrifying nightmares about it, and I just can't do it. So, for those of you who don't know, Bloody Mary is an urban legend about basically a ritual that's done, and if you do the ritual, then she'll appear in the mirror. Now, one thing I did not know about the legend is that it's actually a lot correlating with our conversation earlier. It's actually dependent on culture and time frame, whether she's malevolent or benevolent, right? So back in the day, girls believed that if you went and you looked in a mirror and you said her name a few times or whatever else, Macabre Masters is not responsible for your actions, then she would reveal who your husband's going to be. Because girls, obviously, when they're younger, they care about that stuff, and they, like the little origami thing that you flip like that we did on the school bus and stuff, and like all that. So, and then there's the alternate version
Talk
where,
about the cootie catchers.
yeah, straight up, yeah. And so
I'm
that's
gonna make you one. I'll send it to you.
please do. I would love it. I'd love it. I miss those days. They were more simple days when everything could be answered by a little piece of paper going like this. But with that
Or a game
said,
of MASH.
but so she was so there was that version, and then there's of course the version that I guess I would think everybody knows better, which is that she is violent and that she will hurt you. Now, the thing about it is that there's even like theories that like it's a rite of passage for a lot of people. Like it's a rite of passage to have the balls to basically go and do this. One thing I notice is that, like the Japanese legend, it's mostly girls and women, or girls and teenagers that do it. It doesn't really mention guys ever doing it, or any part of the culture that's reserved for guys. Like it seems to be mostly a feminine thing, which is interesting, and perfectly cool. Like party on, because if I went into the mirror and said it 25 times and Bloody Mary didn't come for me, I would be super happy about it. Like, you girls can have it. Go enjoy. With that said, the origins of the urban legend are highly debated. Some people think that it's Mary Tudor, who burned a bunch of. I think Mary Tudor burned Protestants back in England. So there's that. There's connections to Elizabeth Bathory, and a few others. But really, what it comes down to is that it's just another thing, kind of like the angel, kind of like the girl, where you have to do a certain type of ritual and then you get a certain result, and whether it's good or bad is kind of where the gamble comes into the situation. So, the way you summon Bloody Mary is apparently you go up to a mirror. Now, there's variations, but you go up to a mirror and you either say her name 3 times, like Beetlejuice, or there's another one where you say, I have your baby, and I guess she was a woman whose baby died, and then she appears to you and hurts you, kills you violently, doesn't drag you to hell. There's no 3-headed dragons that I know about in this situation, but this so that's kind of what the ritual looks like. Not as elaborate as the Japanese one, but I do find it interesting that almost every ritualistic thing that we've talked about at some point has the number 3 in it. Like 3 is super important for rituals. Actually, Beth might actually be able to give some clarity on that one. Beth, you know why every
There's a lot into that. So there's a lot of people think the whole 3 thing just has a direct correlation, particularly in superstition and occultism, as it is the opposite of the Holy Trinity. So that's a really common thing for us to see 3 in. And then there's some too. I'm not super into numerology, not to say that I discredit it. It's just very expansive and complex. And it's really hard to understand it unless you focus a lot of time to it. I think as a girl who has played Bloody Mary, more than one occasion, like I definitely have felt the creep factor of it, and I've played it in a few different variations. One of the things about Bloody Mary that I think is really cool is that we see it as an example in a lot of other things. So Candyman, the movie and the story, very similar to Bloody Mary, right? And then there are other sort of sleepover spooky games that, like you said, are a rite of passage. So we have the light as a feather, stiff as a board that we saw in the Craft movie. That is a very commonly practiced one. There was one that we played, and these are more kind of the next two I'm going to list are more guided meditations that kids do to spook each other out. But then there was one where we played called the Sandman, where you would lay there and everybody would kind of just pretend like they were packing sand down into your limbs and your body and your chest and stuff. And if you couldn't get past the sand and the feeling of heaviness, that the Sandman would take you in your sleep under hypnosis. And then I just learned about a new one called Red Door, Yellow Door. Have you guys ever heard of that one?
Nope.
No, I've
So
not heard
it's
of that
more
one.
of a Yeah, I hadn't either, and apparently it's not uncommon. But I heard about it the other day, and it's a lot of it's on Reddit, which is a dangerous place to go when you're a mom trying to figure out what your kids are doing. Not gonna lie. So I look up red door or yellow door, red door, and it's another kind of sort of hypnosis, guided meditation that kids are out there doing, and it's a little more dangerous, I think, just because of how susceptible we are when we're that young, especially when it's with our friends and we're actually playing with psychological things that we don't understand, and they guide you in to say with this little chant like red door, yellow door, red door, any color door, something something something, and you go into your subconscious, and they start asking you to go into doors in your subconscious and see what they are, and the different things behind the different doors. And one of the most common, we'll say, consequences that happens if you go behind the wrong door is if you see a man in a gray suit and a fedora hat, that you'll die, or that something bad will happen to somebody you love, he will. If you see him in a door with other people that you know, something bad could happen to those people. And I really think it's interesting now that we've kind of gone full circle with all of these, how much like there is overlap in between different things that people believe and play with and practice and stuff. Bloody Mary has a lot to do, like you said, with Mary Tudor. I have heard the correlation to Elizabeth Bathory. And the other one I've heard is, again, she's a witch, actually, that scorned witches can summon. Like one would invoke a demon or another entity. Like you can actually summon Bloody Mary to come and be vengeful for you. And I know some women, witches, not Wiccans necessarily, that have worked with Bloody Mary sort of as a matron icon or deity, like anyone would with Lilith or Hecate or the Morrigan or something like that. And so, without freaking you out, Pope, there are witches out there who actually like pray to Bloody Mary, like factually, for the sake of the women's justice and vengeance and empowerment and stuff like that, which I find interesting because there isn't a whole lot of concrete history except for the Mary Tudor part specifically, although English legends and royal families and stuff are scary enough as it is without having to turn it into stuff. Like I would have been scared of Mary Tudor too. She was kind of crazy.
But yes, but that actually ties back in as well um because I completely forgot. Literally what you just said tied back into something
Bloody
you said
Mary.
earlier. Is I will no, it's because of the idea, the American Gods idea, right? That something has power when we give it power, right? And so
Absolutely.
by that logic, which I do not think is flawed logic, thought energy, brain energy, prayer energy is energy, and energy has to go somewhere. And so I don't think that logic is flawed. That the idea that a lot of these beings could be created. In fact, South Park explored it. The Imagination Land episodes.
Imagination. Sorry, I couldn't help it.
So and also as far as that goes, the reason it scared me is because I was a kid and I was just really creeped out by it. But like I think it would be wrong for me to say in any scenario, truly, to say that okay, well, you should probably not be praying to Lilith or Bloody Mary or whatever. I mean, pray to whoever serves the purpose you want. All I ask is that if you're mad at me, please do not sick Bloody Mary on me. I just would appreciate it. I just
Lilith's fine.
I adore Lilith as a historical figure and as a biblical figure. I adore Lilith. Like I think Lilith is so fucking sick. Now that is a bad bitch who lives for drama. All right, like I am down with Lilith. All right. So by the way, if you guys don't know the legend of Lilith and kind of what happened in the historical context behind why Lilith in history essentially became a demon,
we should do an episode on that.
We really should. It's sexism, guys. It's historical sexism. Lilith became a demon by not bowing to Adam. It was Adam's first wife.
In the Jewish text. Lilith is actually much older than that.
I think we talked about this. I think you brought that up with me. Yeah, let's do an episode on Lilith, because Lilith is still actively worshipped today. Yeah, it's relevant. It's really relevant. I'm into this. Yeah, there we go. All right. Party on. So make sure to pass along the word. Let them know. Let them know that Pope's down. Pope's down with the cause. So with that said, so that's kind of our thing, man. That's urban legends. We obviously didn't get into every urban legend, and the whole idea wasn't to be a comprehensive idea. We just want to talk about ones that affected us personally. If you take anything from this, it's be careful what you say in a mirror in the dark. It's make sure to be careful what statues you kiss or walk under. And it's also to be careful who you let hang out in your room when you're trying to sleep. Okay, so that is the point here. Oh, and also watch yourself when you're in the bathroom. 3-headed dragons. Terrible stuff. Crazy stuff. With that said, guys, do you have any shout-outs? Do you have anything you want to say before we get out of here and release our macabre homies out into the universe to do whatever they need to do?
This week, the only shout out I have is our unofficial fourth member, Hat Burf. It is birthday time for the birthday dragon. Other than that, I have nothing else going on.
Hat Burf.
No shout outs, no nothing.
Happy
Hat
name
Burf.
day. Hell yeah. Okay, Beth?
I would also like to shout out the birthday dragon. Happy birthday, my love. You are beautiful and strong, and I cannot wait to vote for you when you run for president in 2048. Vote Morgan. Just so y'all know, I'm campaigning early for her. And I would like to shout out the Colorado Burial Preserve. It is a wilderness preserve first and a cemetery second, and it is a whole new way to look at taking care of last wishes and rights. Embalming doesn't have to be the only answer. Cremation doesn't have to be the only answer. And as always, your local mortuary student wants you to have all of your options available. So just know that there are other things out there, and I will continue to share more as I find them. But I really like the Colorado Burial Preserve, and I really stand by its mission and what it's trying to offer people. So I'd like to help them get the word out there. And the owner, Emily, is just an amazing woman who is incredibly supportive of women in the funeral industry, and she wants to offer alternatives for people besides just embalming and what we consider traditional services and such. Also, I'd like to shout out to Nick's wife for buying him that badass new microphone. That's super cool. We're very excited for Nick because he's been hoping for it for a long time.
Good times. Yeah, 100%. So my shout outs, of course, shout out to the birthday dragon. Happy birthday. Hope you have a wonderful one. With that, also, I don't really have any other shout outs this week. So I hope everybody just has an amazing, beautiful week. And thank you for listening. And we'll see you next time. So this has been Macabre Masters.
We love you.
We love you. Now get the fuck out of our podcast.